at the HBCU thing.
Yeah.
Well, it was a little chilly and didn't nobody want to smoke, so I had the sticks in my bag. So at some point when that was over with, I turned a couple corners and I hollered at my friend, I said, well, where we going? Because, I ain't ready to go inside. He said, well, let's go to Margaritaville. I said, okay. So on my way to Margaritaville, he said, well, we might not be able to get in because they having a private party. I said, well, okay, let me know. Then he went up there and they saw him because he comes up there pretty frequent. They was like, now come on. Mm-hmm. I had just been up there the night before. I mean, like, literally the night before.
Oh, okay.
And so he was like, man, they said come through. I was like, fuck it. So I'm in my Southern shit, alumni shit, some sweats and some shoes. So I came up in there. Channel 6 was having a goddamn a party.
Okay.
So I ate that food. They had a goddamn open bar.
Yeah. Tell them motherfucker had them goddamn nigga had them little motherfucking
they have shrimp and lamb chops.
Lamb chops. They had small lamb chops, nigga. Really? Hell yeah.
Right. I bust their ass. I had the lamb chops.
And
I
I'm
had the shrimp.
Big ass shrimp.
Yeah, shrimp.
Them goddamn
lamb chops. They had the goddamn
mushroom, oysters, some other shit they had.
They had the egg rolls.
Egg roll, yeah.
Egg rolls was the best thing they had. But the thing was, the drinks were free. I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
So I told the little girl I was about to pay. She was like, it's open bar. He said, but you can tip me. I was like, well, here. I was gonna pay for the drink. Here, $10. That's your tip.
But you know what would be good though? You did have a Thursday night. Right. Hey man, I'm glad. I remember back when I was in San Diego, Thursday night was.
The problem is.
Here, I don't know.
Margaritaville's drinking too much. I mean, you'll fuck around and get a cigar. My homeboy got a cigar and a tonic water. A tonic water, which really ain't no alcohol. A tonic water and a cigar cost him $40. Right. Too much. I go to the tobacco house, I drink Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark is a well drink.
Yeah.
It's $6 a pop, so I'm getting doubles.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Right. All right. Huh? No. It's okay. I'm ready whenever you are, bro.
Man, Joe was so funny, man. Walking that cabin now. It's a cabin.
Yeah.
And he in there chilling with a big old cigar.
Yep.
Stogie.
Hey, man.
Big old cigar.
Hey, man. You invite me to your thing, I'm gonna do it.
You got that stogie.
It's one of my favorite.
That'll be jamming, Cal.
Bruh.
Cut this a short, Cal.
And do your thing, bruh.
Here you go, Cal.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are y'all? How are y'all? How are y'all? I'm Calvin Lester. Steven Jackson is literally in Baton Rouge serving our community. And had a good conversation with him a few minutes ago. And we're going to talk about it. They got a lot of wild stuff going on in Baton Rouge, y'all. Pray for them. Pray for all of our legislators.
I know they got some junk going on.
Woo! Lord Jesus. They got a lot of stuff going on down there.
Excuse me, Cal.
But this is 97.7 Heat WKSH. I'm Calvin Lester. Like I said, Stephen Jackson in Baton Rouge, serving our community, and we are here this evening. Issues that matter. We always take a moment to thank Johnny Antoine for giving us this platform to talk to you about those things that are of consequence to our community. And so, thank you, Johnny, for giving us this platform so that we can talk about these things because, um, in the era that we live, I realize more and more every day how critically important it is to give our people information. I believe that if we give our people information, they're going to make good choices. At the same time, many times our people don't have information or they get disinformation. They get told lies. They get fed lies. And you can't make good decisions on lies. So, um, thank you, Johnny, for giving us this platform so we can talk to this community. And if you want to talk to us, and we love to hear from you, we love to hear from you. A couple of ways you can do that. You can give us a call at 318-779-0459, 318-779-0459. Or if you watch it on Madame Beyonce's internet, you can shoot us a message in chat. We'll pay attention to it. And so we're going to get to some of the headlines. Um, Starting in Baton Rouge, I see where there has been a lawsuit dealing with the Brave Cave. Many of you may know that the city of Baton Rouge um, had a warehouse in Baton Rouge where the Baton Rouge Police Department would take detainees and question them. And by question them, I mean they would beat the brakes off people to get them to quote unquote confess to things. And this Brave Cave was just going crazy. They were literally beating people and, denying them their civil rights. And there's been a lawsuit that's filed by several people to prevent any of the convictions associated with testimony associated with the Brave Cave. But they want it shut down. And let's be honest. We understand that crime is a problem in many of our communities, and the police have a very difficult job in order to get people to talk to them. But this idea of physically harming people and beating people in order to getting them to confess or to talk to you, that's something that's out of Russia. That's not what we do in this country. That Brave Cave lawsuit is something that we should be paying attention to as we move forward because that was a bad deal. That's a bad deal.
Check.
On some other news, I see, Brother Johnny,
Alright.
that Grambling State University has a new president.
Wow.
Dr. Martin Lamel, who is a graduate of Grambling State University, who, much like our good friend, Representative Stephen Jackson, was a SGA president during his time at Grambling, is now returning to be the new president of Grambling State University. So, all you Gramblingites, you got a new president. He's a young leader. He has some new ideas, but he's clearly rooted in the culture of Grambling State University. And so, we send shouts out to Dr. Martin Lamel and his family. But at the same time, we pray for him because any of these leaders in higher ed in Louisiana are going to be facing some very daunting circumstances. It's not going to be like when Governor John Bel Edwards was the governor and you had investment in higher education. It seems to me that the present administration is going to be doing cuts. So as Dr. Lamel takes the helm of Grambling, he's going to have to be very careful in terms of guiding the institution during a time where, like the last Republican we had as governor, there were cuts to higher ed, and that was not a good thing. So, I will say again, and we say it often in this show, elections have consequences, and when you sit down or entertained by something else and you don't vote, generally speaking, the worst option wins. And so you got someone who, we haven't heard his budget, but there are rumblings that the budgets and the resources that were made during the Edwards administration that allowed investment in higher education may go away. So prayerfully, Brother Jackson will be able to stop it. But if he's not, we pray that Dr. Linnell and his staff that he brings and our other HBCUs will be able to deal with the reality of having less money.
What,
Go ahead.
Calvin? What exactly is Jeff Lane? What are you really trying to do? I mean, because everything I see, he's trying to cut everything that represents helping people. To me, I mean, even bringing back the death penalty and talking about hanging people and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. What is he really trying to do?
I mean, let me say this.
Is that supposed to be tough on crime or something?
I mean, Brother Johnny, I'll say this. There, in politics, like as in life, there's a pendulum that swings from the left and to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, a pendulum will swing to the left, which generally means that's good for us, African Americans. But that pendulum swing to the left is almost always
Swing back.
followed by a swing to the right. And as far as it swings to the left, it swings to the right. What am I saying? We elected the first African American president in the history of the Republic in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected, right?
Right.
That was a great situation. And then he was reelected in 2012. We loved it. There were forces that did not want to see him get elected in 2008, and they certainly didn't want to see him get elected in 2012. Right. Well, guess what? In 2016, much of Trumpism was a response to the Obama years, because they felt like they were losing something, and so they decided that they didn't want to ever go back to a scenario where you could have another Obama. And so you wound up with the candidate that was diametrically opposed to everything Obama, which was Trump. And so now you have a scenario in our state where you had Governor John Bel Edwards. John Bel Edwards was by no means a liberal Democrat. He was probably as Democrat as you're going to get in a state like Louisiana, right? Generally conservative, right-leaning, but John Bel was a centrist that was fair to the African American community. And so, in response to that fairness to us, you have, following him, a Jeff Landry, who is, by all appearances, not a friend of our community. Now, it may turn out that he is, but it seems at the front end that he has a policy agenda that is very aggressive, going in a direction that is a direction that most of us do not believe in. Just look at this thing with the refusal of summer feeding benefits.
That was crazy to me, man. I couldn't understand that, bro.
I mean,
I still can't. I can't understand.
I mean, it's political theater.
Right.
I mean, you have an opportunity to accept your portion of federal dollars that go to your state, but rather than accept the federal dollars that go to your state that's already set aside for you, you're saying no, right? But yet you want to spend $3 million to send the National Guard to the border in Texas. For what? I don't know. They're not shooting anybody, but that's a stunt. And I saw today, and I was going to talk about this, and I'll just drop it in the headlines. The same governor that refused money for summer feeding for poor children went to the same governmental agency, which is the Department of Agriculture, and asked for money, federal money, to help crawfish farmers. So hold on for a second. Wait. Let's. If I was a preacher, I'd say let that marinate for a minute. When it comes to feeding poor children in the state of Louisiana, he, that being Governor Landry, and his chief of the Department of Health and Children's Services, which is retired Judge Matlock. Judge Matlock is from Shreveport, by the way. Said no to feeding children, which would have amounted to an extra $6 per child. Money that was already given to the state. He said no to that. Those WIC benefits come from the Department of Agriculture. He then turned around to that same Department of Agriculture and says, I need help for crawfish farmers. That happened today.
Yeah, he sure did.
So, crawfish farmers, yes. Poor children,
poor kids, no.
No. For the same department.
Yep, he sure did.
We talk about federal help when it helps certain people, it's welfare. When it helps something that you want, it's assistance.
It's still a handout, regardless of what.
At the end of the day, listen, man.
It is the taxpayers' money. It's the federal money. Come on, man. It's still the same.
It's our tax money asking for some of our tax money to help our people.
Right.
But you, Governor Landry, were not willing to help our people as relates to feeding these 600,000 poor children. And let's be clear, all 600,000 of these poor kids are not black.
You're right.
Okay?
You're
it's
right.
not just our kids. It's across the board.
He want to make them more independent.
Man, listen, that's
I heard that jump.
That's
man.
a
You
talking point.
tripping, dude.
That's a talking point. That is a Republican talking point. Just like when Reagan was the president, he will talk about welfare queens. At the same time, you're paying farmers in Iowa not to grow crops.
Right, it's crazy.
And at the end of the day, Johnny, if you look at the WIC, AFDC, the money for WIC and AFDC does not go to those women. It actually goes to the grocery stores that provide the service.
Wow.
Because I'm giving you money, I'm giving you something on a card that you can't use anywhere else.
Right.
You gotta go use it at the store.
At the store.
So if you don't take what's on this card and go to the store, you don't get it. So guess what? The person who ultimately benefits is the person that's on the store.
Wow.
And with WIC, milk, cheese, bread, things of that nature, guess what? That's your dairy farmers. That's the middle part of this country. The Iowas, the Missouris, the Nebraskas, where we grow corn, where we had the cows, guess what? They are getting paid by making sure that poor people eat. So, I mean, at the end of the day, these resources pass through our people, but our people are used as a funding source for big farms, big cow farmers, and grocery stores. But we don't want to talk about that because we don't want to tell Mr. Brookshire's, Mr. Kroger's, Mr. Save-A-Lot, Mr. Shopper's Value, Mr. Piggly Wiggly, that I'm supplementing your bottom line. It's the same governmental money that's supplementing their bottom line.
Right.
But you're going to demonize a person that comes in there to give you the money that's supplementing your bottom line. Come on, man.
And then you counseled it. I mean, you didn't accept the money, but you had no alternative. You had nothing else. So right there lets me know you didn't want to help anyway.
Well, it just seems like you didn't care. And to some people, cruelty to the bloody and the dusty.
But they have animal part. I'm just saying.
Cruelty to the underclass makes some people feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. Well, listen, we're going to take a real quick break. You're listening to 97.7 Heat WKSH. We play what we want to play. And as you've heard, we say what we want to say. Stick and stay with us on the other side of the break.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, man.
It's buck wild.
Like, bruh, you asking for money for crawfish? Ain't you want to let the kids get fed? Come on, man.
He was trying to really make
They got actors, man. They got actors that are actually fighting against that, talking about the
A lot of people need to be quiet with this guy. It's a bad deal, bro. It's a bad deal.
And they doing a special session, huh?
The special session they're dealing with now is about crime.
You know what tripped me out though, man? And I know they may be talking, they may hear this on the thing, but I even see why. I see why he allowed Steve Prater to be a part of that pardon board. He ran the prisons. He know the system. He know what to do. And you talking about running the pardon board for the
Bruh.
state? All of the states. You ain't telling me that.
Don't think these people don't sit down and figure this stuff out, bro. Don't ever think that they're not sitting down there and thinking. We do the emotional thing. We get mad and we say this and we do this, that, and other. They sitting down there watching and plotting all the time. They're watching plot. And we are back. We're back. I'm Calvin Lester. As I said before, Steven Jackson is in Baton Rouge fighting a good fight. We pray for him and all of our state representatives and state senators down there. Because, good Lord, they have one heck of a fight to deal with this session. This particular session, so let's give y'all some information. The way normally the legislature works is the regular session of the legislature usually starts sometime in March, the middle part of March, and it goes until June, the first part of June, where they gavel out and they do all their work. And usually it's a 90-day session where they deal with bills and issues for the state. There are some sessions that are called general sessions, which allow them to deal with regular laws, regular statutes, regular issues. And then there are some sessions that are considered tax-only sessions, where they only deal with tax issues. Excuse me. And as I appreciated it, and Brother Jackson might, when he's back on, we can get him on one day when he's down there, can confirm. The regular sessions are normally 90 days. The tax sessions, I think, are half as long. And during the general session, you can talk about anything. You can talk about going to the moon. You can talk about economic development and all that kind of stuff, but you can't talk about taxes. Excuse me. In the tax session, that's when they deal with only tax issues, where they deal with tax breaks, tax incentives, and things of that nature. So when there's not a regular session, a governor of the state can call the legislature into a special session. The governor has the power to do that, and the governor, when he or she called the legislature to session, he has to put in his executive order, they call it a call. And in that call, the governor can specify what things they're going to talk about, right? So if the governor wanted to have a special session where they only talk about reapportionment, he can do that. If you recall, early on in January, Governor Landry had a special session for reapportionment. And out of that special session, we got the additional congressional district that was basically ordered by Judge Shelley Dick in Baton Rouge, East Baton Rouge, the middle district. And so we got a district that was passed, and that district extends from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. And there was a possibility of getting a second district for the Supreme Court. Didn't get that done. So, but those were the things that they talked about. So, as of Monday, the governor called the legislature into session to deal with issues associated with crime and criminal justice. And in his call, the governor listed about, I don't know, 7 or 8 things. He talked about criminal sentencing. He talked about penalties. He talked about the death penalty. He talked about one of the things I think is in the call is the composition of the state Supreme Court, and one of the things in the call is dealing with criminal justice reform and things of that nature, and penalties with certain crimes, making some things crimes that wasn't crimes, making enhancing penalties and some things. So, for the most part, they're down there for the next week or 2 or maybe 3 to deal with those things associated with crime. And so, there are several pieces of legislation that I'm looking at, and one of those is this whole concealed carry, right? So the governor has asked that the legislature abolish the concealed carry law and allow anybody 18 and older to carry a firearm without having to have a license, without having to have training, without having to have anything, just being 18. I have a major problem with that. But before I talk about my problems with it, interestingly enough, the District Attorneys Association for the state of Louisiana has some unreadiness. The sheriff's officers, or the sheriff, there's an association of sheriffs for the state of Louisiana, they have some unreadiness. And interestingly enough, the Fraternal Order of Police have unreadiness. Now, that's huge because the Fraternal Order of Police is an organization that's generally conservative and Republican leaning. Very rarely do they endorse Democratic candidates, and they are very, very conservative, very, very law and order oriented, and they have a problem with this idea. Now, as I appreciate it, the concern that the police, District Attorneys Association, and the sheriffs have is, if you pass this law, literally anybody in the state of Louisiana is going to be eligible to carry a handgun. And so now, are we going back to the Wild Wild West, where people are walking around with a 6-shooter and a 9mm on their on their holster, to be seen as we're in a grocery store, I'm passing by somebody that has a firearm in the grocery store. As I'm going to my church, am I in worship with somebody with a firearm? If I'm going to the school for a PTA meeting, am I dealing with somebody who has a firearm with them? That's kind of disconcerting, right? And then there's some legislation that I think passed. I was watching some of the legislature before I came that said, you know what? If you have a firearm and you shoot somebody, as long as you say it's self-defense, that's good enough for us. We can't sue you. Wait a minute. Somebody says that they are in self-defense. They don't have to legitimately be in self-defense, but they say they shot at you because of self-defense, and you can't sue them. That's problematic to me. There's a article, Civil Code Article 2315, that deals with the whole theory of negligence in the state of Louisiana. They teach you that in law school. And this article says, and I'm going to paraphrase, any act of man that harms another, you can get damages for. So if I hit your car, there are damages. If I shoot you with no reason, I can get damages. Well, as I appreciate it, the law that they are trying to pass and give to the governor to sign says, if I shoot you and I say I thought you were attacking me, not that you were legitimately attacking me, but I thought that you were attacking me, you can't sue me. So essentially, I have carte blanche to say that guy at the grocery store looked at me funny. I shot him. That person brushed up against me as I was going to my car. I shot him. That person was walking around on the street and I shot him. The problem is this whole concept of extending the castle doctrine. So, in the law, there's this doctrine called the castle doctrine that says every man's home is his castle. The castle doctrine is the theory that allows the whole shoot the burglar law that says if you're in your house, somebody breaks in your house, you can shoot them because you're defending your castle, right? Well, the Republicans and the conservatives, and the nutcases, if you ask me, that's my personal opinion, have extended the concept of the castle doctrine to say if you're anywhere, you are in your castle. So if I'm in my car at the grocery store, I'm in my castle. If I'm at the gas station, I'm in my castle. And if you threaten me, if I think that you are threatening me, or I'm in reasonable belief that you are going to harm me, I have the right to shoot first. Now, normally, self-defense law requires you to retreat. Normally, to get the benefit of self-defense, when someone attacks you, your first move is to back away from them, not go toward them. The castle doctrine says you don't have to do that. If you approach me and I believe, quote unquote, that I'm in fear of my life, I can shoot you. Where have we heard this before? Well, the castle doctrine is a law that George Zimmerman used to justify killing Trayvon Martin. That's when we first heard of it. The castle doctrine has been used by a number of people to justify otherwise illegal shootings of African Americans. And so now we are in a situation where we're bringing that to Louisiana. And at the same time, we are giving everybody unfettered access to a firearm. The problem that I have with it is there is no other scenario where we allow a dangerous instrumentality to be handled by the public without some kind of limit. For example, you can't drive a car without a driver's license. You can't drive a car without insurance. You do know that you can kill somebody in a car. You do know that you can hurt somebody seriously with a car. But we require you to have a driver's license, training, and insurance, right? But at the same time, an instrument that is calculated to end someone's life. You can just be Bubba and just get it. That doesn't make sense to me. And so those are some of the things that our legislators are fighting against. This whole idea that, the Second Amendment is a birthright and has no limits. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There is no right that is conveyed in the Bill of Rights that is unfettered. Nothing in the Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, is limitless. For instance, people talk about you can't stop me from having a gun because the Second Amendment says I can have one. The First Amendment talks about free speech, but guess what? If you cuss somebody, you can be held liable for it. Free speech does not allow you to yell fire in a movie theater. So there are limits to every one of those rights, except people don't want to admit that the Second Amendment have rights. And I don't want to get into the weeds. There is a whole litany of law school cases, and maybe one day we'll bring one of these Second Amendment scholars in to talk about where this whole idea of unfettered access to guns actually comes from, because there's a case that the Supreme Court had back in 18 something or another that dealt with something in England that they brought forward, and I heard some pretty interesting podcasts on it. But suffice it to say, our legislators are dealing with some pretty tough stuff as it relates to the firearm piece. And I'm concerned because if law enforcement is against it and they pass it, what's going to happen? Well, most law enforcement folks are good people that just want to preserve the peace and go home at the end of the night. They want to go home to their families, right? So if they pass this law that says anybody can have a gun, if I'm a police officer, I have to assume, Johnny, that everybody has a gun. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm a police officer who has less than respect for the African American community, I'm going to assume every person that I stop that doesn't look like me has got a gun. And so my trigger is going to be that much faster. A lot of people saw the scenario in I think it was Minnesota. What is the brother's name? I can see his face. Gosh, dog it. The young brother who was stopped by a police officer in Minnesota. Maybe it was Philando Castile, maybe something like that. Yeah. And he told the police officer, "Sir, I have a legitimate permit to carry a gun, and the gun is in my front seat. Yep. I can show you my permit." And when he reached for his permit, the police officer got scared and shot him on his body armor, and we saw it. And this guy was the person that he shot was an African American young guy who was a cafeteria worker. Never had a record in his life, because if you got a record, you can't have a firearm. He killed him on the side of the road because he was jumpy.
Where's his girlfriend?
What was his name, Rodney?
You were right, Castile.
Philando Castile. Yeah. And so, how many more Philando Castiles are we gonna have in the state of Louisiana? Because this legislature said anybody can have a gun. I mean, I just, at a certain point, folks, it goes from the ridiculous to the sublime, but I will say this, and I will continue to say this, I will continue to say this. Elections have consequences. And when you don't vote, when we don't vote, almost we can guarantee that the worst option is going to win. And so we have to be very, very careful as it relates to the exercise of our privilege. And so we've got a few elections coming up. One is an election for sheriff. And I would just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you are concerned about some of the laws that you hear are being discussed and voted on in Baton Rouge that are going to be bad laws, imagine how bad it's going to be when you have a bad law and a bad sheriff who's 100% in favor of this foolishness that they got going on in Baton Rouge.
Stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk. Stop and frisk don't work. It's been seen, it has been empirically proven to be ineffective and racist.
Exactly.
Both. BOAF. Both. Every time. There are studies in New York and in places where they've been doing stop and frisk for decades, and those studies say it doesn't work to deter crime and it's racist. And by racist I mean it has been directed at one particular group of people to the dereliction of others. In New York, they found out that while they were doing all that stop and frisk, when they were stopping all the brothers had guns less than 7% of the time. You got thousands of stops, multiple stops, and less than 7% of the time. So that means for every 100 people stop, only 7 people have a firearm. But you use that to justify stopping the other 93 people?
Right.
Come on, man, get out of here. It's not working, and it doesn't deter crime, by the way. So it's a lot going on. We want to keep you advised of those things, and in the next weeks, up and coming weeks, we're going to reach out to some of the legislators down there. Certainly, we're going to start with our own Representative Stephen Jackson and ask him to give us a kind of update of what's going on, what we need to be aware of, maybe if there's some things that we need to do from a public advocacy standpoint. Maybe he might ask us to jump in the car and ride to Baton Rouge and speak out on some things. But folks, we got to realize that the folks on the other side are not playing a game. They are very serious about moving the state in a different direction, and the direction that they're moving on is not based on any empirical evidence. It's not based on any data. It's based on their feelings. So when we were in law school, they told us, bad facts make for bad law. And so we've got some bad facts that's going on. And I'm concerned that we're going to have some really bad laws that can negatively affect our people, particularly our young people. And I think we need to be really circumspect about what we need to do to fight against that, or at least go on record to say this stuff is foolishness and we're not going to support it. So with that, we're going to shut it down. This has been Issues That Matter. I thank you for your attention. I hope that in our conversation, some of the stuff that we said made sense to you. If your consciousness was pricked, continue to listen to us. What we would ask you to do is, if you are following us on social media, whether it be the Facebook or in the YouTube, make a point to share and like. Y'all like and share some of that foolishness that other guy puts out that's negative about our community. So we want you to share and like something that's positive. So thank you, Johnny, for giving us the opportunity. This has been Issues That Matter, 97.7 WKSH Heat. We will be back next week, where we will continue to play what we want to play and say what we need to say. Thank you, and have a great evening. Oh, we got a caller. Good evening. Hello.
I guess they.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? If you're a caller and you call us back. We want to hear from you.
Here we go.
Yes, ma'am. Caller.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yes, sir. How you doing? All right. All right, what you got?
Right.
these laws they make. They want to bring back stop and free. Come on now. And then the governor of the state, he's connected to Louisiana State Police. They murdered Ron Green, and they all got off scot free. He's with them. He's with that type of regime. And these laws they pass to stop and frisk, these gun laws, they are to target us. What they're doing, they're declaring open season on black people, and we need to really wake up, see what time it is, because that is what's going on. And what has perpetuated is these young black guys out here doing all this crime, doing all this killing and stuff, and these white folks are scared, you know. And then all these immigrants coming over here, so they're scared. Okay, the thing that we need to do as black people, we need to organize ourselves. We need to organize ourselves, you know, and we need to get to a point where we start governing ourselves. Because going down in the Baton Rouge talking with the white folks, they already got their agenda together. And most of the black politicians, they don't have guts enough to speak up. Now I will give Sam Jenkins credit. He spoke out about this gun law and about a couple of other laws that they're dealing with down there. Especially stop and free. And then I'm gonna tell you something else. Okay, the sheriff election here in Shreveport. All right, Crater is backing a guy that has double zero law enforcement experience. Stephen Whitehorn, he has all the experience required. Why he's not backing him? Because him and that one other white guy, they in the same club, like the Ku Klux Klan. See, what they want to do, they want to maintain white supremacy and control every power structure in the law enforcement in Louisiana. So what we need to do, we need to start organizing and getting ourselves together. And I ain't talking about no praying and no singing. That ain't gonna do it. See, because these white folks are the same ones that was back then. The same species that had not changed. And we can sit around and be passionate if we want to. We're gonna, hey, we're gonna see what's gonna happen. We need to try to reach these young people now. Because these young people out here now, this is the future of black people. Now, we can't just throw them away, even though they're doing what they're doing, but it's the reason why. The music that they're allowing to get pumped to them, and a whole lot of other things. So, when they get get us out the way, my generation, I'm 70 years old. I'm gonna be 70 years old.
All
When
right.
we out the way, they're gonna have on these young folks, man. And we need to try to reach them. We can't just throw them away. See, integration divides us more than anything. Integration was a Trojan horse. Now we are separated by finance class and all that. But those young gangbangers, whoever out there doing all this stuff, now they're gonna look at when they pass these laws, they're not gonna distinguish one black person from another. See, they're gonna use these laws to what they call putting black people back in place. So until the time, they can deal with them with their laws, we need to organize. We need to organize and get ourselves together and start governing ourselves. And we need to pull out this integration thing because look what integration has got done. Look at our children right now. Look at our future. That's our future. Look at the school system. The school systems are functionally illiterate. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. I wanted to give you a chance to make your statement. I will tell you this. I think that you're right that we need to organize and mobilize. I think that we need to don't miss an election voting. I heard a minister a sermon this weekend that was very powerful. He made the reference, and let me just give you to his background. He talked about his mother getting a mink coat, and his mother was very proud about that mink coat. It took his parents were married 25 years, and on 25th anniversary, his dad bought his mom the coat, and he rubbed on the coat one Saturday and tried to snip a piece of it out, and she slapped him, knocked him out. And he was like, "Well, mom, why'd you handle me so bad?" And her statement was, "Baby, if you knew what it costs your dad for that coat, you wouldn't treat it so bad. And the point that he was making is we have not let our young people know, and some of the not so young, how much it costs for us to enjoy the levels of freedoms that we have right now. And because we have not communicated that to them, they don't have an appreciation for it. And so I think you're right. As a community, we need to sit down and have a conversation that starts with teaching our young people what it costs for us to have those things that we have. And we don't have a lot, but that we do have came at great cost. There were a lot of people who literally bled and died for us to have the right to vote. You know, I can tell you my mother, as a student at Southern University, had dogs and hoses put on her when they marched as students in the 60s to get the right to vote that I enjoyed, that I used to become an elected official, right? Well, we have to communicate that to our young people and continue to tell them that, to let them know that when they don't vote, it's disrespectful to the people who paid a high cost for that, and that they need to absolutely be involved in every election. Yes, sir.
Okay, not to cut you off, but you know, young people, they feel like they don't have anything to vote for. You know, I mean, we've been voting since we got the vote, the right to vote. And what have we got? Okay, and another thing is that see what they're trying to stop right now. What is that called?
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory. Critical race theory is teaching the true history of this country and what they did to us, what they did to us. Now, I'm not gonna put the English. I'm talking about what they did to us, and they don't want it taught because they don't want these children. They don't want us to know. You know, but God is listening as well now through even TikTok, where we're getting this information now. Now that we have what we're gonna do. You know, we don't need to try to make nothing with them. We need to get ourselves together. Because I'm telling you, God's judgment is coming to this country. And, you know, just like Jesus said, you know, they tell me, well, Jesus feels some more hungry people feel. See, he said the hungry will always be with us. Everybody is not going to be safe. And to be honest today, immigration has separated us and divided us into so many different groups. You know, we got black people and we got Indians. You know what I'm saying? And they get confused about the white people. We need a deeper re-education of our children. You know, because we literally, functionally, literally education that we have. It does not even prepare people for real life war. Now I came up in the 1980s.
No, let me say this, brother, and I appreciate your call. A couple of things. One, critical race theory is not taught at any level in the school system. Critical race theory is a very complicated scenario that that you don't get into until law school, and you don't start law school with critical race theory. You usually don't get into conversation with critical race theory until like your third semester in law school, because critical race theory has something to do with the 14th Amendment, and you usually don't have common law to the 14th Amendment and talking about that till your second year of law school. No, 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 no. Understand something, bro. Wait. Let me tell you what. Hold on. I'm not fussing at you. I'm not fussing at you. Here's what I'm saying. The corporate community and those folks that are throwing up critical race theory as a real issue, what I'm telling you is that in the law we call it a red herring. Because those folks that talk about critical race theory, if you ask them to explain what it is, they couldn't tell you because they don't know what it is.
Right.
No. Listen to what I'm telling you, brother. Listen to what I'm telling you. Okay. Right. I'm not arguing that with you. No. Listen what I'm saying. Listen what I'm telling you. One, you are absolutely right that African Americans need to teach African American history. Full stop. Period. Okay. We're 100% together on that. What I'm trying to tell you is those people who do not look like us that come to the school boards across the country hooping and hollering about critical race theory, they don't understand what it is. I'm telling you, what they're really arguing against is teaching African American history. But because what they have, somebody told them that critical race theory is being taught at the school system, that's what they see. Let me tell you something. Rich folks have played this game with poor white folks forever. The game they play with them is they tell them as long as you're one step ahead of black folks, you're going to be okay. And they get them to vote against their interests. And so what they have been doing lately is saying that critical race theory is throwing things away. I'm telling you, as someone who has matriculated at an HBCU law school, critical race theory does not come into play until you've been in law school for 3 semesters.
Yeah.
3 semesters.
Jim
And Jane coming to the school board telling you about critical race theory being taught in class is a lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And if you ask them to explain what critical race theory is, they can't do it. They're using critical race theory as a boogeyman to say, I don't want to study black history. That's what that is. It's a lie. So I'm giving you that information. So when you go back and you hear them people talking about that, ask them to explain what critical race theory is. Critical race theory has its roots in the 14th Amendment that's very complicated, that basically says that when the 14th Amendment was created because blacks were coming from slavery, that the system that promulgated the 14th Amendment still exists to the extent that it is so pervasive that it continues to put black people in a negative situation vis-a-vis other people strictly on the basis of their race. And it talks about funding, it talks about criminal justice, it talks about banking, it talks about the whole thing, right? It's very complicated. And it's probably accurate, but the folks that are arguing, they don't understand that. Second thing, you always have something to vote for. Do we have political power? We are learning and we're getting political influence. But until we put that with economics, we don't really make the change. We always have something to vote for. As African Americans, we got to get to the point where we vote our interests and not what makes us emotional. But I thank you for your call. We'll talk about that next time. You've been listening to Issues That Matter, 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We play what we want to play. We say what we want to say. Y'all have a good evening. See you next week.